No, it was adultery, and it definitely wasn't for me to be whole. But I did feel it was an escapism, and it was what I thought would bring peace. It's so interesting. Dated multiple people throughout my life, and was faithful in very unhealthy relationships and was faithful. And now I find myself married, and 7, 8 years later, I'm in an affair. And what happened was, with Shannon's pornography and his affairs, it just broke me. And I got to the point where I was like, you know what? I'm going to show you that I can do you better than you can do you.
Welcome to Hardly Initiated, where real men talk real shit. It is your host, Tyshawn Jackson, and I'm popped off with Ryan Catchings.
Yo,
How you feeling,
that
baby?
energy is elite every time, man. We about to go deep on this one, though.
And see, the energy is all because of the pre-show conversation.
Mm-hmm. That's a secret. That's a secret to a good show.
The pre-show conversation. We're gonna teach y'all about this soon. Don't worry. But look, listen. Right now, I'm about to shift from me over. Let me even back this up, because we got this thing, this hashtag going on in our culture right now called relationship goals, right? Listen, I'm not really rocking with y'all relationship goals, because who I'm about to show y'all is the real relationship goals. This is your marriage mentor's marriage mentor right now that we about to pop off right now. We got the founders of Marriage Inc., Shannon and Shirley, here on the couch. Welcome to Hardly Initiated.
Yes,
Oh my
glad to be
goodness.
here.
So glad to be here, man.
Goals.
Yes.
All right. First of all, I just like the optics of that. Keep the camera on. Keep the camera on them.
So listen,
I want them to hold on. Don't even pop it off yet, Ryan. Look at this beautiful brown, mature. You see
Chocolate,
you see here.
honey.
You see the
Chocolate.
gray hairs.
Black.
The gray hairs popping out their heads, meaning they done made it through some shit.
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
And they still are happily and successfully
Yes.
married.
Yes.
And we about to be breaking that down this show.
Hey, don't forget about the matching hoodies, though. That's how you know it's real.
Hoodies.
To make it, hey, what's that?
Whose idea was that? Because
My
usually the
marriage
ladies,
is dope.
the ladies
My
always
marriage
want
is
to
dope.
match with the guys. Whose idea was to match with the hoodies? Who's?
No, we trying to
we
trying to extend the brand as often as we can.
We're our
Okay.
brand.
So she decided to go with the pistachio. That's the pistachio right there.
Okay.
And this is the
It's
navy.
nice.
This is the navy.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
my queen. Notice the pop of Jezebel red,
Jezebel red. Damn.
matching the heart on the
A little
hoodie.
something.
And I guess that's how you guys keep it spicy. You
Yeah,
know.
There you go.
among other things. Among other things.
So please, guys, do me a favor. You guys have made it. Man, I want to let's start with what you do first, okay? Let's just start there. We're gonna be brief with what you do, because first of all, I'm stamping them. They are more than qualified to be in this conversation.
Absolutely.
But if you can just briefly, so we can get to the good stuff, tell the audience what you guys do, your gift to the world.
Did you get the tap? You just see the tap. You'll see that from time to time. We'll be
That's that communication.
You want
Nonverbal.
nonverbal. Man, we are a couple that has decided and dedicated our lives to just really helping people figure out the marriage space and do it in a way that's entertaining, that is engaging, that's educational and transformational. And you know, the stuff that we've experienced, the hell that we've experienced, we just really want to help people avoid going down and having those same pitfalls that we had. And so I remember, you know, what even got me on to is just trying to help people with relationships. Shirley's my second marriage, and I was married before. Went to my father-in-law, kind of prominent minister, and I said, man, I'm having problems. And he gave me no advice. He walked me around the outside of his office building like he didn't even want to bring me in. Like I felt like I was an embarrassment to him, you know. And so we walked around the parking lot, and he just told me, man, go get your wife. And I was like, how you do that? I don't know what to do. And so we ended up divorcing, and I went and got stationed in Germany, and I went through absolute hell. I'm talking about drinking myself to sleep, and I was drinking heavy. I was drinking Cisco. You know what Cisco is?
No.
Oh yeah. You know what, like Wild Irish Rose or Mad Dog 2020?
No, that was low level.
So they had right. So they had this stuff called Cisco, and I used to take peach Cisco and mix it with orange juice and drink it till I went to sleep.
Wow.
And you could see a line of clothes from the door to my sofa. I just started peeling my clothes off. I was depressed, and I had nobody to talk to. I had nobody to turn to. And then, even though we had early on been helping people, and talking to people about their marriages when we were even dating or when we initially got married, when we started having problems, I didn't have nobody. At least I thought. And then the two men that I spoke to, man, they poured so much into me that one, it caused me to stay in my marriage, and two, it made me want to give that same kind of information to other people. So, and then my wife is just naturally, she's coaching from the time she gets up in the morning to the time she goes to sleep. She's talking to someone about relationships. So it's just in her. It's in us innately, to talk about it. So when you say, hey, we got an hour and a half, we got an hour, we got we don't have nothing else on the calendar, on the schedule after this. So we could talk as long as we want. You can create 79 episodes if you want.
Excellent.
Because we're just here to just pour as much as we have,
Now, Shirley, I do have a question for you. So when you met Shannon and, you were aware that he, was recently divorced, were you apprehensive at all about, beginning a new relationship with him?
I wasn't.
Wow.
Yeah, I was kind of green. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Not a lot of world experience. So to me, it was I just saw what was in front of me, and initially though, I wasn't feeling him and he wasn't feeling me. I remember him saying, "Oh, I can never marry you." And I was like, "Well, nigga, I can marry you." I mean, that's what it was, and, he married me for my booty. Right?
No, that's not why I married you.
No, that's why
I met you for your booty.
He took me out on a date
right.
because he saw the booty. And so then it went from there, and I was like, "Oh, he's different."
I saw that thing in church, was like, whoa.
Because I'm a tomboy, so I would wear like big clothes and things like that. So he didn't know. So he was like, "Oh," and our friends were like, "Oh, y'all should." And we both was like, "Nah, we cool. Like, she's cool." I'm like, "He's cool, but that's it." And so, but then he saw me at church and he saw that booty.
It was a wrap.
And then, and then a couple of days later, he wanted to ask me on a date. So
Listen, ladies, continue to work on those glutes. It will help you find a husband.
Absolutely.
Hey, glutes matter.
Glutes matter.
Glutes matter.
So that's awesome. So you guys meet. This is after the first failed marriage, right?
Yes.
So after you have this failed marriage,
Yes.
where do you now begin?
That sounds so.
I know,
harsh.
right?
Failed marriage.
I guess, I mean,
That's what it was.
It's
That's
a
what it
failed
was.
marriage,
Okay,
right?
okay.
Where do you begin to now rebuild yourself at this stage when you have, for anybody, like where should they go now to now reinvent themselves to get to that next level? And, what should they take from that?
So where I went was I became ultra aware of my authenticity. I had decided that purchasing a house or getting a car or an apartment, I had to level up my application process, my vetting process to those types of significant events. So I had dedicated myself to being authentic and being honest. And so when I met Shirley, the first thing I did was I laid down all my faults. I did a relationship credit report, right? You know what I'm saying?
Wait, hold on. Wait, do you recommend that other people do this? Or
Yes, by all means. I said, listen, I got and at the time when I met her, I had left the military, and I was focusing on being a motivational speaker, and the route for that was becoming a preacher. So I went down to a school in Huntsville, Alabama called Oakwood University, well, Oakwood College at the time, but Oakwood University now. And I was going there to study ministerial theology. And so, but I had this, one of the challenges that I had is I had a real bad problem with pornography. Like it had taken a foothold in my life. And I was like, well, I shouldn't have this. If I'm working to be a minister of the gospel, I shouldn't be enjoying watching pornography. So that's one of the challenges I had. Told her about that. Hey, my credit ain't good. My credit is horrible, as a matter of fact. I'm a horrible money manager. I just ran it down.
Or you verbalized the pornography issue.
Yes.
Wow, you were very vulnerable.
I presented her with everything so that she could make a logical decision for herself. This is the man whom I am seeking to be in relationship with, and this is who he is, and these are his faults. Now you decide. And that's the way I've purposed to live my life since that time, because I wasn't being authentic. Wow. While I was married, real quick story, stupid. I was dumb, not being authentic, not really knowing who I was at the time. So my ex was like, I don't like the fact that you snore. And I used to sing in groups and choirs and all kinds of stuff. And she's like, I don't like the fact that you snore. And it keeps me up, it blah, blah, blah. It's not, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm probably snoring because I have some sort of airway blockage. So I went and had surgery and had my tonsils taken out.
Wow.
And since then, my voice hasn't been the same. And, I had some complications. I recovered. I'm fine. I'm sitting here. This is, God knows how many, 30 years, 40 years later, right?
But you really adjusted your anatomy.
Yes.
Because of her opinion.
Exactly.
Wow.
And now, if she would have said, you snore and I'm concerned, maybe we should get you a sleep study.
Right.
That's different.
That's
right?
a caring wife.
Right. But the fact that, what you're doing is keeping me up. But I was so green and wanted to just please and be what I needed to be, that I was like, okay, I'll go under the knife. And now that I understand what that means, I would never do that again.
You was being at that time the stereotypical nice guy. Just kind of, not, like you said, not being your authentic self, and just doing something out of the sheer opinion and thoughts of somebody else.
And so I had dedicated myself to never be like that again. I was already a person that was upfront. Now I was going to be ultra upfront and ultra transparent, ultra, just open with who I was. And you can either take it or leave it.
I love that. So you pretty much, sounds like you had a plan to do the inner work. So, but if you just got out of this relationship that didn't work, and you now, dating Shirley, did you think at that point that you were still interested in a marriage?
Yes.
Or wow,
interested in being married?
In being married.
Yes.
Even after the first.
Oh yeah, I knew. Yeah, I'm not designed to be by myself. I'm designed to, what you doing? Oh, I ain't doing nothing. I'm just, oh, okay. I'm designed, like that's who I am. And it's sometimes it's counterintuitive, right? Because the breakups and things of that nature and the challenges are so painful and so hurtful. But I knew, I'm not. She'll tell you all the time. She says if we were to die, if she died, that I would be in a relationship. Like, I'd mourn, but
I get it.
I don't want to be by myself.
So she already know what the situation is.
Right.
I know what it is.
And she says the opposite. I don't believe her, and I tell her I wouldn't even want you to do that. Like, why? Especially if something happened while we were like young, like in our 50s and 60s. Like, why would you want to spend? You got 30 more years left, and you got to do that time alone. Like, nah.
He said, do that time alone.
Right. Shirley, I want to ask you this because we had a really great episode with Brittany, the breakup lawyer.
Yeah.
And, she's a divorce attorney. And we asked her, what her philosophy was on marriage. Like, is your philosophy that marriage is a forever thing? And her response was, well, what do you know that is forever? Right. And I'm like, well, nothing. And she was like, well, yeah, that's the way she's going into these relationships, or her clients advise them to go into these relationships, that this may not last. So what is you guys' personal philosophy on marriage?
Well, it lasts or it does not last because of your choosing. So if I'm going into a relationship saying, well, it may not last, why am I getting married? I might as well just date you. When it comes to marriage, there are so many elements that you don't get when you're dating. And so if I'm going into marriage, we're combining everything. Marriage is two people becoming one. That's not what dating is, right? And so we have two people becoming one. Are you going to get rid of yourself? No, you are forever until you're no longer here. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we signed up for. We're signing up. When I married Shannon, it wasn't like, oh man, I hope this works out. No, I literally thought from the standpoint of, we're here until I die or he dies, till one of us is gone. That's it. So, I mean, I don't agree with that philosophy. We're in this together forever.
So when in that thinking, right, she also, among many divorce lawyers, they recommend that you should also she said every couple should have prenuptial agreements in place, because a prenuptial agreement is, pretty much how you divvy up the assets. It's like a will, if you will, for the marriage. And in some ways, we've had other brothers that said, nope, life and death is in the, in the tongue and the mind. And, a prenuptial agreement is planning for death. And then other people say that's just responsible, proper planning. So what's your guys' thoughts on prenuptial agreements and how you should engage in that? Is that something that you think could be cursing a marriage?
I think with a prenup, you're literally already going in it with a seed of mistrust. Mm-hmm. So what comes from that? You understand? So that, again, is saying, this may not be forever, so let me do X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. No, this is forever.
Right. And so now doing a prenup and initiating a trust are two totally different things. See, I'm going into this forever, so if I want to legally say how I want things to be divvied up, then I establish a trust that has wills and insurances and all of the things necessary to carry on after whatever this is or whatever this is doesn't continue, right? So, but what it does, a trust says legacy and future. A prenup says this is over the past and we not. So what you're saying is two different things. You're speaking life when you establish a trust. You are planting seeds of death when you even enter into a conversation about a prenup. If now you have to now decide whether or not she's worth half.
Easy. She can have half of whatever we build together or whatever we had, because whatever happened before we got married helped to shape who she is and what she brought to the relationship. So this kind of mentality of hoarding and saying, no, I got to keep it all because I built this right? So when I'm doing this, I can't do this. It's almost impossible.
That's interesting. It's even called a trust.
Right, yeah.
The irony in that. That's interesting.
But prenuptials? I don't know. That just says, that just says, now you might, I've heard some people compare a prenup to life insurance, but we're talking about two different things. Mm-hmm. We're talking about the merging, two becoming one, not two people coming together and existing, right? That's why it's so hard. Becoming one, if you think about it from a Christian construct, God has a sick, funny sense of humor. Because how can you get two to become one? So I'm going to do something with y'all real quick. So just kind of move your mic closer to you, right? Now out in front of you, put your hands together. So I want to demonstrate to you how difficult marriage is, all right? So you have one hand is you and one hand is your partner, all right? Now what I want you to do is I want you to push your hands together so hard that they become one hand. Right, it's not happening. It's not happening, right? So you can put your hands down, right? So then imagine now, because that's what it says going around this heart, Therefore shall a man and a woman leave their mother and father and cleave to one another, and the two shall become one flesh. You know what he's saying there? You're about to enter into the most difficult, challenging, close to impossible thing that you could ever do. But I'm commanding you to do it for a reason. Because once that oneness happens, you literally can do we got time? Can I talk about it?
Yes, absolutely.
Right,
Talk
okay.
about it.
All right, so let me take you down this road a little bit, right? So the two becoming one. The goal of the oneness being together as one, right? The goal of that is so that now you can have dominion over the earth. And having dominion says that whatever I set my mind to, that I can do, right? So here God, there was a point in time, like somewhere in Genesis, I'm not a chapter and verse kind of guy, I don't be quoting it like that, but generally speaking, there was a story about a tower that was built called the Tower of Babel. And God said, he was checking out what was going on, and he said, let's go down and see what they're doing. Now, that's oxymoronic. Like, why does God need to go down and see when he sees everything, right? Right? But he kind of knew what they were doing. But he said to he said, let us go down. So they come down, and he says this. He said, looking at what they were doing, if they could, being on one accord, speaking the same language, accomplish this, then nothing they put their minds to, they won't be able to accomplish. So the oneness ensures that whatever we set our minds to, there's nothing we wouldn't be able to accomplish as long as we're on the same page, as long as we're on one accord, as long as we are operating as one or we become one. That's the caveat. And what people, when you do a prenup, you're already saying we're not one.
Yeah.
We not on the same sheet of music. Do you agree with this? Well, no, I don't agree with it, but I'll sign it if you want. You're already starting off not on one accord. So you're guaranteeing almost that your relationship is going to fail. Why would you do that? You don't do that to a child.
That's interesting.
You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that to a fledgling business unless
Right.
Entrepreneur to entrepreneur. Some people don't understand the entrepreneurial experience,
Right.
And so they will say, "Get a job," right. But entrepreneur to entrepreneur, you wouldn't speak that death to someone that you cared about,
Nah, that's forever. This entrepreneur, it's forever.
right?
Okay, so the prenup thing, I'm gonna be honest with you. After the episode with her, I'm like, yo, I'm gonna carry prenups in my pocket just in case, right? But now seeing y'all 25 years of marriage and hearing you drop some game on us, I'm like, okay, well maybe not the prenup. So if I decide, hey, I don't, to stay away from the prenup, what is the main thing that I can do to ensure that I am with the right person?
You want me to? Because I don't feel like I'm talking too much. When she has something to say, she'll say.
It's gonna be the nuclear bomb.
Right. But so ask the question again.
So the main thing, so if I'm staying away from the prenup, so I got to make sure that if I'm not gonna do a prenup, I got to be with the right one. Is there one or two things that are vital pre-marriage that I should be doing with my significant other?
So let me ask you a quick question first. So I'll answer the question with a question. When you're with this young lady, you're trying to decide
if I should take the next step.
If I should take the next step. So just fundamentally, if who she is diametrically opposed to who you are, that's like a start. So you have to ask certain questions. You have to almost enter into an interrogative space or a discovery phase that doesn't include sex. Because when you introduce sex as a variable in the relationship equation, would you trust a crackhead?
No, they'd be under the influence.
Right, they under the influence, right? Right. So there's a neurochemical process going on in the body that when you are having a sexual experience, your body excretes dopamine. Dopamine is the body's heroin, right? So now you're in a relationship that you don't intend to go anywhere, and you're entering into something that you should not be doing in the first place because it's given to you for a reason. Forget the scriptural religious, forget all that stuff. It's just not wise to be having premarital sex if you're planning on going further on in a relationship, because you can't make wise decisions.
So hold on, wait, because you just lost the whole audience just now. So let me try to see if we could make this a little more bite size.
Okay.
Do you think that someone should not have sex at all from the point of contact to marriage, or is it a phase at which they should fast from sex to see and get that clarity and then vet their partner to make a decision? Which one is it?
Well, there's two answers to that question. But the first answer is you should not be having sex with another human being before you get married.
Wow.
Period.
Now, see, we've heard this before, but most people would call that an antiquated approach to.
I like that for all women, though. All women, I all think that's
But see, like in 2023, do you really even think that's a realistic approach or advice to give people for them to have success?
Yes. The reason why I think that is because in 2022, there's still crackheads. There's still base heads. There's still meth heads. There's still, right? So you are interrupting a process that God designed in the body. I'm talking physiology now. I'm not even talking morality or anything of that nature. When the only thing that okay, so there's this thing called the Coolidge effect. Dr. Coolidge had rats, and what he did was he put a stimulus in the limbic portion of the brain that would, once the rats hit the electrode, it would send an electrical impulse to the center of the brain that produces dopamine, right? And so they did that, and so all of a sudden the rat wasn't interested in anything else except the dopamine hit over and over and over. No food, no suitable mate, so introducing a female rat into the equation.
Oh, he was gone.
Right? He was not thinking about nothing else but stimulating that dopamine response. This is what's happening in the body sexually. But after the dopamine response, there are two more responses that are absolutely necessary. That second response the third response is called oxytocin. The oxytocin is a neurochemical that bonds you to another. So when a woman is breastfeeding, she's producing or oxytocin is being stimulated in her body and also in the baby's body. But as a human, when I do this, if I touch your hands, shake your hand and hug you, that is producing an oxytocin response, which bonds us to each other, which makes us feel more familiar, right? And then, what's this? The middle neurochemical process, prolactin. It is the prolactin response. It is the phase by which men are not interested in sex after ejaculation. That's a phase. It could be hours or it could be days.
Post-nut clarity.
Right? Post-nut clarity.
That's what it is. That's
post-nut clarity, right?
Wow.
It's and the only time that process changes is when you introduce another suitable mate into that man's environment, based on the Coolidge study. As long as he was in with the one that he copulated with, he wasn't interested in sex again for anywhere from 24 hours to 3 days, right? So this process is a part of the neurochemical process that bonds you to another human being. You should want to be with them so bad that it's almost like a drug, but then you should have a refractory period where you can have clarity of thought, and then you have a moment in time where you're bonding. That is what solidifies a relationship, right? Now imagine doing that with 30 women, 20 women, 15 women, 5 women. Now you connected to, and now you have to decide whether or not you should break up with one of them. And you bonded to them. That oxytocin bonding, imagine ripping a baby out of a woman's arms. You ain't doing that. That's why women go balls to the wall for their children, not simply because they're their children, but they have bonded with them, and it is unbreakable bond. That's
It's chemical.
It's chemical. So now you're chemically bonded to a woman that you have to decide, and now she's going through your phone.
Wow.
And
So
now
now-
imagine being with a woman who everything seems to be like, this is the one I want to be with. And you have sex with her, and it's like, dang, she whack, because old girl was like hitting it.
The top was crazy.
Right?
Or this
And
was
so
that,
now
or that, right?
you're literally thinking, I don't need to marry her simply because of your other experiences. I know somebody who, on both ends, I knew somebody who got with a guy, had a friend who was with him. She said his penis was like this, literally. But the girl who married him was a virgin. So she didn't have anything to compare it to.
Wow.
But my friend, she was with a dude who was like,
Huge.
right? She was like, this dude could never do anything for me because I've been with this dude. But his wife, who was a virgin, she didn't have that same mindset. Like, it's so much that can happen when we put ourselves out there and we're not married to somebody. You are constantly fighting to not compare them to somebody else.
It's like
And
overexposure.
It affects your relationship.
Overexposure.
It does. A lot of times you find yourself wanting the person that you're with to be like somebody else. So you put a pressure on them, and then it begins to cause resentment. And they're like, what the heck is going on? It's because in your world that they don't know about, that you're in, you're comparing them to somebody else.
You want her to be like your little throat
You
goat.
want-
But you,
Yeah.
that's true though. That's,
He got throat no problem.
no, because I've had conversations where I'm talking to my buddies, you know what I mean, and we talking about chicks that I'm not interested in having a serious relationship with, and they might ask me how was the type of deal, and I might be like, it was okay. And they're like, oh, what was wrong with it? And in my mind, it was nothing wrong. But what I am thinking, it just wasn't like this other thing that I experienced. So I actually, now that I think about that, it's like the more people you interact with in that very intimate space, the more convoluted your thoughts and decision makings become.
And you introduce spirits, man, like energies.
Yeah, that's real.
You introduce that. I mean, I'm sitting supposed to be making love to Shirley, and then old girl pops up in my head, right? And so now I'm like, okay, how am I even supposed to maintain this kind of special relationship that we had? And I got multiple old girls, like just boom, that oh, she wouldn't do it like that, or she would have treated me like this, or she would have done this way. And it's like, how do you, that's one of the dangers of pornography. One of the dangers of pornography is, as much as we would like it not to be this way, it's a comparison thing. It's a comparison thing. It's like, will my lover perform or appear to perform in the same way? You got young men that are watching porn and looking at, BBCs like, I ain't never gonna be, if this what it takes. Right?
They depressed
Right,
after that.
they
After watching that,
depressed.
seen one BBC, they want to take themselves out.
They like, if this what it's gonna take to satisfy a woman,
Right.
Right.
I ain't got that. I ain't never gonna get that.
Right.
And man, it's
So can I play devil's advocate?
of course.
Because there
You
are
seem kind of devilish anyway.
That's a good listen.
Man,
Facts. Facts.
Now, what I would say is I've seen many successful, or what seems to be successful. And by the way, these are the coaches of many of the most influential couples that we know on a daily basis, and many couples. And many of these probably people that you're coaching, whether they're successful or not, I'm sure none of them probably went in with no premarital sex. So obviously there's ways to have a successful marriage without not having sex at all.
Yes.
Okay?
We had a lot of sex.
Oh yeah, we had a lot of sex.
So I mean, if there is a way to have sex and have a marriage, what does that look like? Is there a healthy way to actually still have sex with this person and court them and vet them with still having a clear mind and making good decisions? Can that all coexist?
No.
They just can't.
I'm not making an interesting podcast host right now. No.
Right. I get it.
That's just
Okay.
like, it's like Can you buy a house with bad credit? Yeah. But you're gonna be paying hella interest rates, and your closing costs gonna be crazy. And is this y'all know all the different
Right.
funding options that are out there. Some are real easy and simple. Can you do it? Yes. Will it be as smooth?
I mean, listen, you hear the stories of the most put together women go crazy once a man break up with her or, something happens.
They call it digmatized.
Guarantee it. Right. She got digmatized.
And
I'm
you looking at
telling
her,
you.
you looking at her like, God, this a 10. Like, she's this and
I'm
that.
telling
But
you, that's real.
wow.
I got a video for y'all after this, but anyway.
Listen, yo, listen, when y'all watch that video, y'all gonna tell him to wrap it up.
But-
Nothing more than put it up. Just put it away. Put it on the shelf.
But let me tell you. But check this out. Because as somebody who is coaching and seeing couples on a consistent basis, what is the common challenges that y'all are seeing, married couples face in their relationships?
I mean, I think the common denominator is people are not aware of who they married. They don't understand how they're wired. We were during the pre-show, we were talking about the DISC assessment, right? But there are multiple personality assessments out there, but they're all designed to help you have a better understanding of who is doing the assessment, right? And what we have found fundamentally is that more often than not, people think that something is being done to them, right? So a woman that has a man who is a high D, who is demanding and direct and what have you, they think they're being an asshole or a dick or whatever, and that's not the truth. But you saw this, but while you were at the dinner table and he was direct with the waitress, you thought he was being a man. You thought he was being, that's how, a man should be. But no, this is who he is. He's direct. It comes from his brain right to his mouth, and he's saying it. Do you want a man that's like that? But most people don't consider who that person is. They think something is being done to them, and it's not. That's just who they are.
So you recommend every couple take a personality assessment? Is
Sort
it
of.
prior to marriage? You
Prior
recommend
to
that?
even dating.
Wow.
You should be able to do a rudimentary assessment, which I did with you guys when I asked, were you outgoing or reserved? I asked, were you task-oriented or people-oriented? That's rudimentary.
So you can even ask that on a date.
You can ask that
those
on a
things.
date, right? To understand how would we work together? But this is the key to the DISC assessment. The key to personality assessments is not knowing how you're wired. That's 20%. The key is understanding how the other person is wired, and then being able to deal with them based on who you are, through who you are. After we've met, I know now from a personality perspective what kind of energy to bring you guys. So down the road, y'all be like, yo, Big Shan is crazy, like he's cool, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You're like, yeah, man. What they're saying is you felt a connection. Why you felt a connection was because of my personality and how I dealt with you and your personality.
Now, that will require for people to really date with intent.
Date with intention. And that's one of Shirley's catchphrases. Is like, if we out here willy-nilly dating, bro. I wouldn't pay to be y'all right now without intention. The pandemic stuff spread like it was because people were not living with intention, right? They were just out here raw dogging it, just not even caring, just doing whatever, right? And so many people, I think so many people died and got sick because people were not being intentional. Wear your gloves, wear your mask, hand sanitizer. Why? Like, I'll be very, very intentional. People was like, whatever, I'm gonna do what I want and live how I want and let the chips fall where they may.
Right. So the knowing, right, that's the knowledge. Then the understanding, that's the not taking it personal. But you have to be honest with yourself. Are you willing to accept? Because you may know and have the knowledge and understand who you're dealing with and try to make yourself accept it. And a lot of people do that, and you're just messing up. You have to be willing to say, you know what? I can't accept it. If you got to call off the wedding, you got to call off the engagement.
If you're standing
gotta
at the
break up
altar.
whatever.
That's
do
how-
it.
that's how we think.
Because if you cannot accept who that person is, and accepting means it's not saying, oh, you can just act a whole plumb fool. No, but it's just saying who you are. If it's not going against principle, if it's not going against the values that I hold, then I'm willing to accept it. Whether you change or not, I'm going into this saying I'm going to allow you to be who you are. I'm going to give you that level of comfortability to be who you are. And if you're not willing to give somebody the level of comfortability to be who they choose to be, then you need to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
You need to walk away. And that's the problem. A lot of us are not allowing our spouse to be who they choose to be. That's why when you choose them from the door, you need to make sure that that's the case. Because if somebody never changes, then what?
And that's what you're saying
You
when
gotta
you're married.
you gotta end it.
That's
They
what you're
never
saying.
Right. So that's why when you're dating, that's why you have to choose wisely. You have to choose from the standpoint of, if this person never changes, that's the question you guys need to ask yourself when you are dating and you're thinking about getting married. If they never change, can I live with that
For the rest of my
for the
life.
rest of my life? And if so, move forward.
But if they never change, should you live with that?
Well, some challenges, you're like, it irks me, it gets on my nerves. But if that never changes,
It's not fundamental. It's like it's not life altering.
right? And
And when y'all say changing, y'all don't mean growth, right? Like, because I
oh
imagine.
no, you will who we were 5 years ago. That's not who we are today, right? Who we were 10 years ago. That's not who we are today. So there's growth, and you have to move with the growth.
Like if you're like we were talking about, if you're an outgoing person, and let's say your lady friend says, you know, I don't like the fact that you're so butterfly-y and so always pollinating my, and then you fall back from doing that. You stop being who you are, and people are wondering like,
I get it.
why, right? So it's like Shirley will see me because I'm the butterfly, right? Shirley will see me and she's just like, when he's done, it'd be time to go. She decided that, right?
Because early on, it wasn't like that. Because I'm like, why you gotta talk to people, women, right?
Right.
Okay, but you know, in maturity, it's like that's who he is.
And just anybody that's interested, that's who I am too.
Right.
So,
Right.
But you know, I use change and growth synonymously. That's why I was confused. But you mean if they don't change their from a personality perspective, can you live with that?
Can
Could you live with that?
Can you? And that makes sense. If their personality were to stay the same, could you rock with this for a sustain? That does sound like a really great question to ask yourself.
Those are principles, like all the things that you guys talk about. Like, I know we practice those in business. Like when we go to hire, you know, somebody, they get the position if they want it, if they have the capacity to do it. So a lot of the same things that you guys are talking about, we apply them in business. But it's crazy because I don't really take those same things into consideration when I'm dating. Yeah. So now I'm thinking about these universal principles and how I can go and start applying them to dating.
No, it is. That's the beauty of Marriage Inc. Right? You know, when we're coaching, like if I was coaching one of you two and your lady friends, right, or your more serious, whatever, right? I would consider what you do, right? Because if you're a doctor, you're a physician, you're a real estate professional. You focus on investment properties, things of this nature. Now I utilize that because that's what you live every day. So now there are fundamental principles that make you successful at what you do, that if you apply them to your marriage relationship, you will see equal success. But most people don't want to even identify it. It's kind of a willy-nilly, just even the term falling in love, things of that nature. Everything is just so, it just happens. And you got to be very, very intentional. This is why I said I didn't marry her for her butt. I married her intentionally because I saw that she would be a good mother. She would take care of me if I was sick. She would, there were some fundamental things that outside of her physical appearance to me that I thought, okay, if I choose this woman, this is going to be a fundamentally a good choice. And for the most part, I was correct.
And as you've, developed and grown in this relationship, has your needs changed?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
For sure. Around 2016, my life was changed like forever. I was diagnosed with cancer, and they removed a portion of my lung. So now Shirley is more of a caregiver than she has ever been in my life. Like if I eat, it's because she cooks.
Wow.
Right. It's we had to change our business approach. When we came to Atlanta, we were coming to Atlanta to relaunch our dessert company, which we were building in Huntsville, Alabama. But spending that kind of time in the kitchen is just not possible. I didn't want to see her doing it, and I definitely couldn't do it. So that had to change. So I'm not as strong as I used to be. I'm not as apparently, to me, virile as I used to be, like a diminished man.
What does virile mean?
Sexual.
Got it.
My stuff we used to do. I used to try to put her toes back on.
Right.
All that stuff. It's like, nah, I'm not doing all that right now because I can't.
Now, mind you, 2016, the carcinoid cancer, 2018, congestive heart failure, and last year, prostate cancer. So when we talk about vows, we done been through it.
Right. So the person that I am now, and the person that she is now, or like you said, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, those people didn't even exist. Mm-hmm. I was, stuff I was able to do back then is just like, just being a man, cutting the grass and just being a man. I've changed. I'm different. And now imagine her saying, "Nope, it changed. You're not the same. This is what it used to. This is not what I signed up for. Mm-hmm. I'm out." No one would do that.
It's a different mindset,
right?
And one thing I really appreciate you guys for your work, because even before the show we talked about this. Mm-hmm. Right now we're in a state where people are, they don't really trust or even believe that people could make it through some things like that in this day and time. People don't even believe that, you could really even have a long, healthy, sustainable relationships. People are questioning marriage as a model altogether, and even the benefits of it. And y'all were breaking down some things that I didn't even consider when y'all was talking about the benefits of marriage. Y'all broke down how not only does it benefit yourselves, not only does it benefit your families, but a successful marriage actually pours over into the community. And I want y'all to go back to kind of talking about those things, like really go into like some of the benefits of a strong, healthy bond, that union, really go into that. Because I think we've kind of lost what that looks like. And I don't think many people have even been able to experience some of the benefits of marriage directly. Even looking at my peers growing up.
Yeah. I only have two, I would say, relationships with couples that's been married over 15 years.
And me personally, all my closest friends didn't have their fathers in their life. Most of them due to just pure neglect. One of my boys, his father's passed away. But just that lack of presence, those relationships, we didn't feel like the warmth and get many of the, the benefits of a married family. So can you go into describing what that looks like and how that benefits the community and everything around it?
Well, I mean, I will say this. One of the most profound things that my son, Julani, he's like my twin almost, at least physically, even mentally, emotionally, we're very much alike. He said to me, we were just a random conversation. He just came up to me. He said, "Thank you for staying with my mother." It kind of threw me off a little bit. I was like, that's weird that my son would say that. And because I didn't tell him that I was contemplating leaving. But maybe at some point in time we might have had the, conversations or whatever. And there was a benefit to him staying together, even though it wasn't perfect together. Right. He felt a benefit. He felt that he was a better man. He was better prepared for life because we were together. And it does his heart good, right? It doesn't break his heart. And why would I want to do anything to my child to break my child's heart, right? And I hear people constantly say, you shouldn't stay together for the kids. what better reason is there than your legacy, your family, your future, right? And so when you hear people talking about fondly talking about so example, my son sitting with you and your friends would be a part of the conversation would be weird because he had his dad the whole time,
Right.
and then he had his dad with his mom the whole time. Like that's a paradigm that he don't understand, right? And so even in that interaction, it could be business, it could be friendship, it could be whatever, there might be some challenges because a certain group might not even feel understood by the fact that this young man is almost like talking about different races and how they experience a different life because or different have a step ahead because of some things that have gone on culturally or experientially in their relationships in their families. Well, my son now can have that conversation. So now him having that conversation with other men affects them, right? So now they want to come to our house to see who this mother and father are you talking about, or who this family is that you're rapping about, or who's this mother or this father that you were able to have this kind of relationship with. That right there is a small effect. So how he views me, now he is that way with his friends. Now his friends are seeing something that they would not have seen if I was not in his life. Like there's these kinds of cascading effects that happen when you present a couple that is together in a family, church environment, the neighborhood that you live in, the company. I'm a strong proponent of. I think that, for example, pro sports. I think that the teams that have the best chance for a championship run are the teams that consider family the most, because you have less distractions, you have less things to bring you down, to weigh you down. You're a better friend. You know how hard it is for you to give advice to somebody when you're going through shit, right? So you see all of these kinds of ancillary benefits to families staying together. So now you take a divorce. When divorce happens, you have one family living a particular kind of lifestyle, right? Divorce happens, boom. Human nature will tell you this person is going, the wife is going her separate way to her house to establish her her home. The husband is doing the same, right? Before they get married again, they're still going to try to live to the same standard of living. So now they're even more stressed because they're trying to keep up with what they did together. Now he's stressed and he's taking that stress to work. He's taking that stress on the bus. He's fussing at that person that is just now getting the divorce is at the airplane counter fussing because his flight is delayed. Instead of just calling his wife saying, "Hey babe, I'm going to be late." Right? So all of these kind of ancillary effects when a family is murdered, it affects the community. It affects those that are involved. It affects the families that are touched. So there's this kind of concentric effect that is happening from inner to out, from the couple inner to the community outer that we have not considered because we're so focused on wanting to just live our life the way we want to live it.
And a family, just for context, being murdered is the metaphor
For divorce.
For divorce. And it truly is a death.
It is a death. And it is an unfortunate death. Let me tell you, the death is because this is what the death does. You know, I don't know if you've ever had anybody close to you pass away, but what they do is they have the family come to view the body before it's at a church or funeral home or whatever.
Right.
They do that to deal with the shock and to jumpstart the grieving process, right? So when you get a divorce, you feel like the person is dead, but they're still walking around. So your body says they're dead. Your psyche, your mind, your mentals, everything says they're dead, but you see them dropping off the kids. Can you imagine that kind of mind? Like your mama is dead, my mother is dead, but I see her sitting over there in the corner. That's going to drive me crazy. It's worth it to try to
And
work
then
through
in the
it.
corner, living what looks like your best life that you couldn't live that with me.
Right.
there's
The,
so many
the mind, what that does to the mind. I'm trying to watch my language. What that does to the mind is can be very, very challenging.
So what do we do to avoid that? Like what should a couple really facing some real deal challenges? Like what should their action steps be to get their marriage back on track?
All right. Can I answer that question with a question?
Sure.
If you were diagnosed with prostate cancer, what would you do?
Go to the doctor.
First, that would be the first thing.
Yeah.
Right. Well, of course, if you're being diagnosed, the doctor has to do the diagnosis of
they
the doctor,
diagnose me.
right? But you would develop a treatment plan.
Yes.
Y'all would come up
change your diet.
collectively. You start doing research. You'd probably change your diet,
Change my lifestyle.
right? You'd change your lifestyle. You'd get probably a first and maybe second, maybe even third opinion.
Probably start practicing a lot more gratitude for what you do got.
Right.
Come on, somebody.
You see,
Right.
what you've just described is
The treatment plan.
is the treatment plan for a couple going through the worst kind of hell that you could possibly go through that would make you want to consider a divorce. But then you have some people, that's the beauty of what God has allowed us, because before I had was diagnosed with cancer, I had open heart surgery in 2006. We were in absolute hell in 2006. We were in hell. I was laying in the bed in intensive care unit late at night,
So, okay.
listening to her talk to her lover. I could hear it. I'm laying in the bed. I got tubes everywhere, and the lover is calling, asking how I'm doing. Right. So you push through hard shit. Right.
Right.
But that wasn't the hardest shit. The hardest shit was when the nurse came into the room and said, "Okay, Mr. Austin, we're going to get you up and sit you in the chair." I had just, not too many hours before, gotten taken off the ventilator. I had tubes everywhere. And now she was asking to me what I thought to be impossible based on what my situation presented and how I was feeling. It's like, there's no way I can stand up right now. But guess what I did?
Stood up.
I stood up, pivoted, sat my butt in the chair, and they changed my bed and cleaned my bed up. And then they gave me a bath. But in my mind, I thought I couldn't do it. So you got a lot of people live in relationships in traumatic situations that think there's no way. I'm not even talking about spousal abuse or anything like that, but just emotionally challenging situations. And they're thinking, I can't make it. I can't. I'm saying, yeah, you can. And God allowed me to go through, us to experience all of that so that we could look at somebody and say, nah, you think you can't do it, but you can do it. You don't want to do it, but this is the cards that are dealt to you. So do I lay in the bed and just waste away to nothing? Or do I get my ass up and sit in the chair? I got my ass up and sat in the chair.
That's a scary thought for me, to be in a vulnerable position where, sickness and having to depend on somebody else to help. But, especially if it's nothing that you can do if you get diagnosed with, some sort of illness. But Shirley, I'm very, curious, because a lot of times that can have an effect on the partner that's doing the caregiving. So at that point, where were you at emotionally that now you have this husband that you gotta physically take care of? Like, what was going on with you emotionally?
You talking about then or now?
No,
Well,
are
I
you talking about-
guess at any
'Cause what
point you
he-
have to you kind of gotta hold that person up when they down.
Okay, so you're talking about 2016 when he got diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just went into go mode, like whatever it was I needed to do. He would say, I'm sorry, like you didn't sign up for this. And I'm like, this is exactly what I signed up for.
Wow.
That's the vow that I took in sickness and in health. And I know if I was in his shoes, you doggone right, I would expect him to be right there for me. I wouldn't expect anything less. Like, why would you leave me now that I'm not, what I was 20 years ago, 15 years ago? So, I mean, for me, that just wasn't something that wasn't a question.
No question.
No, literally.
No.
No. Now it gets stressful. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a heavy weight to carry. But that's why I believe perspective is everything, man. Right? Because if I had the perspective of, oh, this is so heavy, why does it have to be? Listen, Like, to keep it a buck, my life now is not what I envisioned. Like, I envisioned Shannon and I traveling and doing stuff together that we're just physically, it's just not. Can we travel? Yeah. But we can't go parasailing. You know what I'm saying? We can't go climbing mountains. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just not where he is. And so I've had to change what I wanted and just be like, Shirley, like, you can do it with your girlfriends, but you're just not going to be able to do it with your husband. And guess what? It wasn't something that he's doing to me, right? So if he's not intentionally hurting me, why am I going to begrudge something? It just doesn't make any sense.
And see, even now that I'm hearing some of the things that y'all went through, I just see why people failing in this shit.
Cause this shit hard.
Cause this shit is like the hardest level of ever. Listen, I read the shit bill Amazon before. I mean, take some of this shit off. And I'm gonna be honest to you too, man, because this kind of broke my heart too. Because I'm gonna be honest with you. I think every man's worst fear is their woman being in love with another man. At least mine. I think that's, because I think too, is especially with the type of man I am, I just look at my woman as my woman. It's like, this is, and although it's not right to be possessive, the OGs have said it ain't yours, it's your turn. And I get all the concepts and mindsets, but at the end of the day, I think that's someone, like you said, I think you even said that's one of the hardest things for all of us to come back from. So I want to just even ask just the space, because first of all, for you, what space were you in at that point where you felt like that was something that at that point you needed to do to, I guess, make you whole?
And for context, was it adultery, or was it just this was the season of y'all's relationship where you could potentially have these other partners?
No, it was adultery, and it definitely wasn't for me to be whole. But I did feel it was an escapism, and it was what I thought would bring peace. It's so interesting. Dated multiple people throughout my life, and was faithful in very unhealthy relationships, and was faithful. And now I find myself married, and 7-8 years later, I'm in an affair. And what happened was, with Shannon's pornography and his affairs, it just broke me. And I got to the point where I was like, you know what? I'm going to show you that I can do you better than you can do you. And it's weird, y'all, because it was like something literally just clicked in my brain. And I just shut off this, and I was like, boom. And I just was focused elsewhere. And, that's just how I dealt with my pain, unfortunately.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I guess it takes strength on both sides, because I know what that feels like as a man. If you're in a place where you're vulnerable, the woman that you love and you've been fighting for and building with has, also went and made that decision. What did you have to do anything, or like, what place did you have to go to get that level of forgiveness, to forgive? Was there something that you did? Was it easy? Was it tough?
To forgive her?
Yes.
No, it was very easy, actually. But it was once again, it was God, man. I remember I was coming. I had just come from my doctor's appointment, finding out that I had to have open heart surgery. It was after that appointment that she came clean about everything that was going on, the questions that I was asking, and she told me. I broke down literally. I mean, just the waterworks was just crazy. But I heard God clearly say, if you cannot forgive her, don't ask me for forgiveness. Like, don't even think about coming to me and asking me to forgive you for your mess if you're not willing to forgive her for her mess, right? And so I immediately understood that voice saying, don't be a hypocrite. You've done things that have not been cool in this relationship. Now, all of a sudden, it's over because something has been, someone has treated you. She treated you in a way that you've been treating her, right? So I immediately got myself together. She'll tell you. Immediately, I got myself together, and I was like, we'll get through this. We'll work through this. But she wasn't interested at the time. She was just like, whatever, you do you. I'm about to do me.
Got it.
So you, do whatever you feel like doing, because I'm done. And I had to work through that. And the hardest thing was, you ever got a spanking, but you was really sorry for what you did, but you got the spanking anyway, right? And you might have been pleading, like, I'm sorry. Like, I really am sorry. Yeah, you're sorry, but you're going to get this work, right? That was me and God. I was sorry, man. I was sorry that I had done the things that I had done. Sorry I didn't have the courage to come to her, and I did it in such a clandestine way. But the only thing that I could do was to put myself in the spirit of forgiveness, and it made it very, very easy to see her for being a human just like me.
So based on you guys' experience, do you think it's possible for a couple to be married 20 plus years and remain faithful for the entire marriage, being that you got all these ups and downs and emotional things and challenges going on?
It's definitely possible.
Yes. I've seen it. We've
Definitely
seen it.
possible.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's definitely possible.
And is it ever a time where separating and getting with another person could actually be a healthy part of the relationship?
Never.
No.
Not being married. No, not being married.
So introducing somebody else into another relationship, that's never a healthy option.
Like, are you speaking from a polyamorous perspective?
No. I mean, no, just traditional monogamy. Like, even if y'all get separated, for example, y'all say, hey, look, I want to be. And by the way, do y'all believe in separation?
We
Getting away
believe
from each
in
other.
spending time apart.
Okay.
It's healthy.
And in that time apart, you don't believe it's right at all.
No, it's dangerous. It's very, very dangerous to introduce someone else into a situation that's not healed and not whole.
Because you're not, where's the healing, right? If you're separated with the intent to get back together, why would you introduce somebody? Because your focus is still not on this. Your focus is now on somebody else. So if the goal is, we need to separate because this is just too toxic, this is too unhealthy, you separate, but I don't want to divorce you. So then you take that time to figure out what's in you that will not allow you to humble yourself, go get the help, whatever it is that keeps you guys from being in a healthy space, because you're part of the problem.
That makes sense. So you even separating with intent.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, to be arbitrarily separated and to decide to mix and mingle during that time, that space apart, all that does is add insult to injury. You're already damaged and are in the situation that you're in for reasons that you might not even understand. So not to take that time to now and then put yourself in a position to have now develop feelings for someone else.
Right. And introduce mistrust, because 100%, if you go back to the marriage, now we're asking, well, who are you with? What did you do with that person? Well, how do you feel about that person?
Those are the dangerous questions.
That makes sense.
Those are the real dangerous questions.
Yeah.
Like the biggest mistake I made was asking her specifics. I shouldn't have asked, because I didn't want to know. They didn't change anything.
You just hurt yourself.
And it just hurt me, right? So that's why I just going through phones, asking questions. How was it? Was he better than me? Was she this? Was he that? Like, these are things that are just, put your head down and run.
Let me ask you this, because you hear that men and women cheat for different reasons. So for a woman, it's emotional, and for a man, it's purely physical. So it's just for a man, it's just over after as soon as it's done. But when I was thinking about this, if you were married, it's all really an affair, right? Because you just don't go out. If you're a married man, you just don't go out and have sex one time. It's all a relationship, right? Is that accurate? That it's not just a cheating.
And it's not just physical for men. I mean,
It's
you
not-
can talk
yeah,
about
yeah,
that, but
yeah.
I hate when people say that. Like, oh, it's not.
Oh,
Yeah.
Not for all men.
I think there are some people that have that focus sexually, they have a certain focus and need sexually, right? And there's disorders for that, right? Nymphomania, there's certain types of quote unquote disorders. But generally speaking, I don't think men choose to cheat, choose to be sexual with another woman purely for the physics of it. Purely for the physics of it.
So that's a fallacy, pretty much.
Yeah, in my opinion.
Okay.
There's some people that would totally disagree. They feel like, hey, I'm doing this, I'm just whatever. But there's some effect. You might not see it. It might be termite or water damage for you, but it'll reveal itself. And when it reveals itself, you'll see whether or not this is going to affect your how valuable you are as a human.
Right, because that's how y'all emote, like for real. And your woman is like right there with you, like everything else matters. But when she wants to get down with you sexually, like that's that validation, that's that acceptance. And when you're not getting that, a man, he's like, I need to find somebody to give me that because I need that validation. I need that acceptance. That's emotional. That's not just physical. When it keeps happening, it's a reoccurring thing. Now there's a deficit that's going on in him emotionally, right? So at the end of the day, many times we cheat because there is a deficit going on. We're not just seeking some sexual, physical fulfillment. How we deal with that deficit, that's the problem.
What are some of the indicators of that deficit so you won't go to the point of adultery? Like, what are some things that, might pop out that you're like, okay, I need to get this in check because if I don't, it might end up in an affair?
Thinking about other people, just outside of being in the bedroom and it pops you in the head, just thinking about other people, thinking the worst of your spouse. Like when you can't see, like you said, that gratitude, that is so important. Like y'all better get in a state of gratitude for real, because you need to think of all the reasons why you married them in the first place. Those reasons still exist. And you need to think of why you're not experiencing that. It has something to do with you, not just them. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying?
I get exactly what you mean.
And it's like...
And that's why I always ask people to really consider, like, did you marry an evil person? Mm-hmm. Or did you marry people that are humans, right? Because humans make mistakes. But when you're standing there at the altar, that's the purest intent. You might be nervous. You might be like you always have you kind of get cold feet because you're like, am I making the right decision? You want to make the right decision. But generally speaking, man, that altar is the pure place. If you can get back, that's why, getting a videographer to capture a wedding is so key. Not just so when it's tough, you can go back and say, okay, you can go back to the purest intent that you had, which was to share your life and to experience this wonderful thing called life with this person, right? And if we act like that if we don't have that reference, we don't have anything to go back to. So thank God we do have our memories that we could go back and say, man, this that's why we ask couples, when did it start going bad? Because if you don't have a reference of any moment, we're fighting an uphill battle. If you can't even think of, or you can't have a clear mark of delineation from when things were good to when things went bad.
And listen, one of the biggest indicators is what your spouse is saying. But see, we look at that as, oh, they complaining. There they go complaining again. Oh, she just nagging. That is a massive indicator. If I'm nagging about the same thing, if I'm complaining about the same thing, hello?
Right.
Right? Something's missing. Like, pay attention to that.
Faucets drip for a reason. The Bible says a nagging wife is like a dripping faucet. But faucets drip for a reason. Do you need to change a washer? Something needs to be attended to. Even though it is a nag, it gets on your nerves, but let's bring attention to what is needed so that we can address it and move on.
Shannon would say, if you just treated me like you treated the boys, we wouldn't even have half the problems that we have. You know what I would say? You a grown-ass man. I ain't going to treat you like you not no kid, but he is. You're a kid. You're a kid in a grown man's body. What you wanted as a little boy from your mothers, that's what you want from your women. You want your woman to look at you and be like, that's my man. When I looked at my two sons, look at my boys. Oh, you mommy's babies. You know what I'm saying? You want your woman to look at you like, Ain't nobody going to violate this because he got my back. My boys, touch them. It's going to be a problem.
You mess with their mama, it's going to be a real
You know what I'm saying? You
problem.
want your women to encourage you and lift you up. You come home, you want to have a safe place to lay your head. My boys, baby, you got this. You can do it. Like, I'm pouring life into them.
She messing it up for some young lady out here.
Life.
Because they try to, if they try to replicate what they experienced at home, a lot of that ain't out there.
It's tough on her. It's just gonna be tough.
I'm talking about for everything: the love, the emotional, the emotional support, the food.
And
Folks out there can't cook.
unfortunately,
What is going on?
as mothers, unfortunately, that's what we do though. We put so much energy into our children, and then we wonder why we're having issues in our marriage.
Man, we got to
First
have
of
a
all-
part 2 or something.
First of all, I damn sure ain't ready for marriage.
Yeah. That shit, like, is there
Be
like
honest about it.
yeah.
So-
is there a practice course or
You know-
something we can take before or something?
But
Well, see, here's the thing. This is the crazy part. There's only one thing that prepares you for being married. Want to know what it is?
let me think about that. The one thing that prepares you for being married. Is it your spiritual discipline? Is it what is it?
Marriage.
Damn, I was about to say something
Trick
crazy.
question,
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one.
Marriage prepares you.
Really?
That's the only
It's
thing.
the only thing, man.
I mean, who prepares you for? And I said this on Jeremy's podcast. Who prepares you for open heart surgery, cancer, congestive heart failure, cancer again, and everything that's associated with it? Where is that manual? Where is that preparation?
And that's if you make it to that point. I mean, because that's longevity you guys got
That's
to have.
long-
Yeah.
And
We're not even making it that far.
And
Yeah.
look, we can't even front about it was intentional that we stayed together. We stayed together because we couldn't afford to be apart. But I think that God, because of the people that we are, God was like, I need y'all to have the strength and the courage to go through this hell I'm going to put you through, because there are going to be some other people that are going to go through hell. Maybe not exactly the same hell, but similar hell. It's going to be people, and I need them to be able to point to somebody.
Marriage Inc. is needed, man, because I'm just like, I mean, what we got to do to help y'all get to 1 million couples, because everybody needs a couples coach. Because I'm even thinking about that, like how many people in long-term healthy relationships are in my life. And
And think about this though. All the things that they said they done been through, I've heard on multiple occasions, so many people in our culture nowadays be like, oh, if I experience that, I'm gone.
yep.
If I experience this, I'm gone. Or if they do this, I'm gone. We've developed this very low tolerance
Yeah.
for just
Anything.
We've developed a low
Sickness.
tolerance for other people's shortcomings.
Right.
We want people to tolerate us. And I want you to have a whole lot of tolerance for me. But when I'm sinning against you,
that's the ultimate sin.
right. When you sin against, people be hypocrites, man. Let me tell you, God, I'm sorry. So if you believe, if you're Jewish, a Christian, or Muslim, the major monotheistic religions, right? You at some point in time you believe in sin or doing something that God is displeased with, right? But it's okay in relationships. Look, it's okay that she do something to someone else. So if she lies to someone else, I might pull a coattail and say, babe, you shouldn't have done that. But if she cheat on her taxes so we can get some extra money, if she does something that she should not be, like, as long as it's not against me, I'm good.
Right.
You're good. Do whatever you feel like doing. It is once that person sins against me that now I have a problem. Yet, the God that we pray to all the time and ask for forgiveness, we could just do anything we want to do and expect for that forgiveness to come. That's oxymoronic. It's hypocritical to not expect from you. I believe we're all sinners, right? I believe you're a sinner. What I expect you to do is sin. And if it's against me, I give you grace and mercy.
And that's why when we take the vows, we really don't know what we're saying, right?
Have
Clearly.
no clue.
We really don't. Marriage literally is the one relationship that will bring out the darkest side of you, side that you didn't even know existed. Your spouse will bring that out more than anybody, your parents, your friends. You guys will see parts of you that you didn't know existed. Marriage is from a spiritual construct. It is to help build your character. And marriage will help build your character like no other relationship. If you can get through that, you're going to see a side of you that will blow your mind. You will just see life in a different way. You will see people in a different way. You will see love and forgiveness in a different way. But you have to get to that point. That means you're going to have to push through that tough time, those tough times. You're going to have to knock down that internal wall that you have, which is that's painful. We don't want to do that, right? Because that's being vulnerable.
Right.
That's allowing somebody to come in. But that's what love is. Love is saying, I'm literally going to open myself up and allow you to come in and do whatever you want to do. Because if you do anything short of that, you're not going to experience love on the level that you can. That Christ love, that pure love. It's not. And that's what marriage gives you. So you have that one side where it is hell. But when you get through all them kinks and you build your character and strengthen your character and you get to that other side, peace and freedom.
Got to put your running shoes on.
Man, well, goddamn. I've never felt like I've really
Y'all got Tasha scared as shit.
no, really, like honestly, like I really do feel like I just had a full-on coaching session just now. I don't know if I've ever felt like that right after a show. And it's funny because I'm having so many flashes. Like while I'm listening to y'all, I'm thinking about, my parents' marriage and like their divorce and all the things that they went through. And these other marriages that I've seen. It's just like I'm just kind of seeing it because in some ways, everybody's experiencing similar problems. Like you could probably even put these problems in a box that what everybody's pretty much facing.
It's in the vows, right? In happiness and health, richer for poor.
You all facing these different things, and being able to really make it through that with somebody is truly, truly incredible because I'm also a part of the generation that's just non-tolerant with the BS right now. Like it's so funny. If a problem come up, in the life of entrepreneurship or business, I'm like, oh yeah, we got to get this shit solved. A problem come up in the life of a woman, I'm like, I got to get rid of this girl. She getting on my goddamn nerves. I gotta figure, it ain't the same tenacity to get that shit solved is not there.
Right.
So I can imagine I'm not going to be ready for marriage until I develop that same level of grit and tenacity that I have in my entrepreneurship life. For that part of my life, because it's just no option. It's impossible. It's impossible for me to fail in this entrepreneurship because that's just not even an option for me. But
that's the same thing you said.
But you hear what you're
once
talking
you
about?
make the decision,
absolutely,
you made the decision.
Yeah.
I made the decision. All the ships are burnt. This has to work, and I guess now I know when I'm going to be ready.
Yeah,
And when I'm at that point. For that part of my life.
I'm never giving counsel to. Somebody talking about marital problems. I'm shutting the hell up because I'm not even qualified to give counsel.
Yeah, Ryan's advice is usually, hey, you need to get rid of her ass.
That's
Ryan's counsel to marital problems.
That is my counsel. That is my counsel. I'm ashamed now.
That shouldn't be. You shouldn't be ashamed because there's some people you need to get rid of. There's some people that come into your life.
No, that's his only solution.
I'm just gonna chill now. I'm gonna just send them to Marriage Inc. That's it.
Well, we'll take them. It's gonna cost them, but we'll take.
No, but please listen because I know it's some people watching this right now that need y'all in their life
Immediately.
Please tell them where they can get you. When they need to get you in their life.
Well, here's the challenge though now, because at Marriage Inc. everywhere, right?
Excellent.
But we are moving from a space of we definitely individual coaching is diminishing on our list of things to do. Couples coaching, and I want to tell you why. Because folks are not serious, bro. Folks are not serious.
Really?
Folks do not care. No, no, no. And we are two empaths. And they dump this stuff. And then we're like, okay, do this. They're not even taking notes. Some, not all, some not even taking notes. Some not taking it serious. If I told you I could help you, we could spend a week with you and your lady friend off in Turks and Caicos alone, just the two of us, for 7 days of marital work, and it'll cost you $50,000. You would look at me like I was crazy. You would not. We'd be like, okay. First thing you do is you say, okay, who can we find that's cheaper? Right? So that right there lets me know that now there's a value placed on something that's invaluable.
Facts.
If I could share something with you that would make you a 10-figure earner in 10 years, that would revolutionize your life, would it be worth 50 grand?
More.
It's
And
light.
it's immediate. It's light.
That's
right?
light.
That's light,
See?
right? People don't think that.
think that about marriage.
Wow.
Not about not. And I guarantee you, if your marriage relationship is right, you will be a 10-figure earner. But without a right relationship, you still could be a 10-figure earner. You just be miserable.
That's what we've heard from some of the most successful, men that we've had on the show. They all are like, hey, marriage is the way to go.
It really is.
They single men, or they men that have been married but
Men that are married. The men that are married.
Got you.
Like I would say, would you say that the most successful men we've had have been married men?
Looking back at it, I would say so. I would say so.
And they all advocate for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something about that. It's something about when you find someone who you can be on one accord with. You feel like you can run through a brick wall. You feel like you could do anything. Yeah, you do. And you tend to do it. I look at some of, and this doesn't mean that the marriage is perfect, right? We got to dismiss that misnomer that a marriage has to be. A marriage doesn't have to be perfect. A marriage is not two people being perfect. A marriage is two people just trying to work together to figure it out.
A willingness. You just
And
gotta be
willing to figure it out.
man. Yeah.
That's all. That's what a successful situation is. And so, folks, especially young ones, I call you guys. I put you guys. I say the young ones when I'm. It's a Jedi reference for those that are not, that are Padawans, right?
Right.
The young ones, right? I say, y'all gotta start investing in y'all invested in all these funnels and these these different entrepreneurial ventures that are amazing and wonderful, but y'all ain't putting the same time into the most important relationship that you could possibly have. The time and energy is not happening, and it's jacking y'all up.
And it used to be just men was just focused on that, but now it's men and women.
Oh man,
we all invest.
Everybody trying to get the bag.
Everybody trying to get the bag.
Everybody trying to get the bag, and we gonna be all jacked up, right? A society of people that had a bag, but they just broke down, can't come together, can't get through tough stuff.
Single parenthood.
And you can't even
look
pass
at the
down the
richest
bag.
men in the world are Bezos, Dre, like the list. Microsoft man,
Gates.
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates. How are these people? But if you ask them, I bet you they can't tell you how much time they spent on their actual marriage. And I call it, long time ago, I did a video on this, when we first started doing YouTube videos back in 2010, 2011. And I did this video and I was asking, what's your ROI? You spent 5, 10, 15, 20, $100,000 on a wedding, but you haven't spent nothing on your marriage. I saw someone, I don't know if it was Ash Cash or I forget who it was, on y'all platform. He was talking about this. It was like spending $1,000 a month on marriage enrichment. Ain't nobody doing that.
Right.
But people are in courses and get caught up in these funnels and saying, okay, I want this and want to see that. So I imagine that you guys have had other coaches in your lives to help you all get to wherever you want to be, right?
Right.
Right. have you? I would imagine you spent a decent amount of money on this coaching.
We got goals. We got we actually celebrated spending over how much? Over 50,000 this year on personal development specifically for business. It was like we celebrated spending that much money for
Celebrated it.
Yeah.
Right? But yet you kicking them out the house. You kicking them out.
Hey,
Ryan's kicking them out.
What
Hey,
you about to do?
You're not.
What you doing for the rest of the day?
Right? Like you going through them like it's like it's a revolving door, and it don't need you spend. And I'm not saying with us or whatever. You spend and focus information, your knowledge and information base on being the best husband that you could possibly be. I got to make sure I get y'all books too. I didn't think to bring books.
We need those signed and everything
for the three of y'all,
please.
But you know, your dedication needs to be the most amazing husband that you could possibly be. I guarantee you that you will see the financial benefits of being that kind of man if you focus on being that kind of man. But if you don't focus on being that kind of man, you'll never become that kind of man. And then you'll still be chasing something that you should be able to be putting on your back burner. Like she's not something I have to put. She is always on the front burner on medium. And sometimes I got to turn it down and sometimes I got to crank it up. But she's never in the freezer and I got to thaw her out. Right? So I need y'all to put yourselves in a position, and the people that you influence, the men on that are watching this podcast, your target audience, 50 some odd thousand of them, at least from an Instagram perspective. I don't know what your viewership is.
70,000.
Right? Come on.
IG, right.
Correction.
And growing.
Correction. Right? But on your viewership, you guys got to encourage this aspect is more important than anything. Literally. More important than anything that they will ever do. It is like going into the joint or going into the gym and never squatting.
Don't make sense.
Wow.
Never squatting, right? It's like, but you see this beautiful, this hole, and people looking at you like, oh boy, that tie, you see that tie, that is fine as all get out. Yeah, but just touch him on the shoulder and he'll tip right over, right? All you got to do is hit him with one good solid punch,
and he's done.
And because his legs are not there, right? So this is what that aspect of you is like, not being symmetrical as a man. That's what made Arnold Schwarzenegger so amazing. He was symmetrical.
Yep.
Right, Lou Ferrigno was always bigger than Arnold, but to back, to legs, to calves, to arms, he couldn't touch him because he was symmetrical. You are out of symmetry when you don't focus, when you focus more on entrepreneurship, more on community development, more on everything other than preparing yourself to be the best husband you possibly could be.
Damn.
Because if you are the best husband you could possibly be, you will be good at all of that other stuff.
You're a hell of a man. Hell of a man.
Shit.
We got work to do.
Well, I guess we got to put those funnels on the back burner.
No, I'm quite sure y'all have the funnels operating. I'm not saying stop your business, but let's keep doing what you're doing there. But now let's start lifting heavy shit.
No, man, listen, I am, man, I'm inspired. And as a matter of fact, I don't think you finished this. You said that you stopped, when you were telling your audience what you were offering, you said you stopped doing the one-on-one. What are you guys doing now?
No, we still do one-on-ones. But we've been
only for high-paying clients.
We've been having conversations about, because folks just don't
transitioning,
seem to, folks don't tend to take it serious when there's no skin in the game. It's just really they just but we have okay. So we have our community, right? Which is you go to the Instagram at Marriage Inc. You go to the website marriageinc.us, and you will see how to join our community. A community is we meet. It is a group marriage enrichment or relationship enrichment environment. It's not just for married folks, but excuse me, it's there for folks who are married, seriously considering marriage or want to prepare themselves for it. And so that's there. And then next year we are in negotiations for planning a conference next year that will be in October. We just need to, before we release it, we got to do some fine tuning on a couple of different things. But yeah, we're offering more, especially as we come out of the pandemic. We did a lot of stuff virtually because I was considered a person that was at risk. I wasn't getting out. So me being here, like without my mask, that's me pushing through fears that I have, right? But we are dedicated to moving into more in-person stuff and just working with people who are serious. Like you got to be serious.
And we want to reach more people. That's why we want to transition from the one-on-one, because we really want to just be able to reach more people through workshops, conferences, retreats, things of that nature.
They need it. And I can
Masterminds, all of
imagine
that.
hanging out with y'all for a week in Turks and Caicos. That's probably crazy because it's
it's
two
not-
OGs.
Everybody gonna be cutting off their side chicks after that.
I tell you, right?
Listen, the side chick. Oh my goodness, that's a whole nother conversation. But
Right.
but hanging out, the like being in like we just did an impromptu kind of intensive with a couple, and man, it was heavy, bro. It's heavy. It's work. It was
a week. We were at their house for a week.
Wow.
And it was impromptu. It wasn't something that was expected, but it happened. And
Like,
what
get
we
y'all
were
ass over here. This shit going crazy right now, right? I need y'all
But
immediately.
what we were able to do was we were able to see the difference when people are in your environment and you can see the subtle, you can see the nonverbals, you can see all of these different things.
Because we've been on the phone with them since May. Right? But now we're with them for a week, so we were able, like Shannon said, to see.
We were
them
able to
in their
see, and
natural
now we were
environment.
able to coach. The fundamental stuff we were coaching was still solid and basic, but now we were able to fine tune, right? So they're just when we actually discussed maybe even doing that as a thing for couples, but it can only once again be for people who are serious about marriage enrichment. And Ryan, I'm gonna ride you, bro. Hey Q, send me Ryan's phone number right now. Send me both of their phone numbers right now. We gonna have a group chat because
That'll be fun.
Because it's just some man stuff I would love to have, like conversation with you guys, just to be able to pour some of this gray hair into so y'all don't have to get the gray hair.
We need that though. We need that for real.
And hearing him kicking him out the house, like
Let me tell you, man, I appreciate you guys coming on to the show and blessing the platform with this much needed wisdom. I am inspired. I'm enlightened. I'm encouraged. And I'm sure the audience is as well. And listen, I have a good feeling it's not the last time
Sneaky.
y'all gonna be seeing these two
sneaky
here
suspicious.
Guaranteed.
on this show. I
Guaranteed.
got a good feeling about that. But listen, I appreciate you guys for tuning into another episode of Hardly Initiated. We are out.